Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the man I would sell to a different company for the streaming rights sometimes, Mr. Josh Finney.
Jesus Christ. talking about putting me into slavery over here. Jeez.
I'm selling your body, Josh.
Oh, good Lord.
Only sometimes, though.
Man, only on Tuesdays.
Only on Tuesdays through a pixelated Skype call.
Oh my god.
With some latency.
This is going downhill in a hurry.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, Corey.
It's Starfield week.
It's Starfield week. I'm so ready for the discourse around this game to be over. I don't know how much more I can take between people saying that the start screen is indicative of how much Bethesda cares.
Oh, I know. You mean the same menu they've been using since Oblivion? Or maybe even Morrowind?
The same fucking menu they've used for like 25 years. Yeah. It's just like I love how people were replying with like classic games start menus, and they're like, "Oh, guess Halo was lazy too. Oh, guess Witcher was lazy. Oh, it's just going on and on." Which was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But you've really had to learn how to separate the people who are just like trying to get those anger clicks.
Oh, I know.
Trying to get the payout from X into their Stripe account.
Right.
That's so stupid. Just this game is attracting some of the absolute dumbest people from the furthest corners of the internet.
I know.
Kotaku published a piece earlier today saying like Starfield fans are increasingly worried about planets not being fully explorable and land anywhere, and it's like, no, actually, we're not. I promise you, we're not the ones who are worried about this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude! It's these clickbait titles. You know what? I'm gonna name this article: "Is Starfield ever coming to PlayStation?"
Oh my fucking god! And it's just funny because again, specifically, we'll talk about like Starfield on console and PC, and it's like, no, it's coming to Xbox. Please, please update it. Why are you afraid to say that it's coming to that?
I know. I feel like
could it be because of a certain part of a certain fan base?
Here's the thing, Josh. I'm really tired of people being afraid to say they enjoy their Xbox.
Like, I don't even know if it's people being afraid to say it. It's the way that I think like content algorithms have gone.
Yeah.
It's just like that invites, I think, a more inherently like negative feel. I mean, because you look at it.
Yeah.
And like, think about the people who were like in high school or just entering high school when like the whole PS4, Xbox One catastrophe E3 happened, right? Back in 2013. Those people are now in their mid-20s. Mm-hmm. Like, they have had their entire view of an industry shaped by a colossal misstep by Microsoft. So like in a lot of younger people's eyes, like basically people younger than me, they don't remember a time when Xbox was like good. Mm-hmm. They don't remember it. And so now, like, whenever good things are happening, good games are being put out, it's like, no, we can't give any sort of credit there. It was an accident. Oh, it's just because like these teams succeeded in spite of it. And like, no, that's not actually how game development works. I hate to break it to you guys.
Yeah.
Like, you really think that Sony has like little to no say in their first party franchises? No, they are like scrutinizing that.
Why do you think there's an Uncharted 5 coming? Why do you think there's 2 Last of Us games in the works? You know,
right? Like, and I mean, like, no, don't get me wrong. Like, new IP is always going to be a risk, right?
Yeah.
And if there's any studio that shouldn't be afraid to make a new IP, though, I feel like it's Bethesda, because you look at the success they've had with the Elder Scrolls franchise, and then with, I mean, Fallout might as well be a brand new franchise considering what it started out as, and then what Fallout 3 became.
Yeah.
You know, it's not turn-based or anything, and I'm really sorry if you can hear any noise in the background.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, my girlfriend's using the shower, and it's connected to the room that I'm in.
Oh, shower, gross.
Yeah, I know, right? But, I mean, like, you look at it, and I don't think that, like, this is like more of a soliloquy like on like just how like the internet has like decided it suddenly hates Bethesda over the last like 3 or 4 years.
I wonder why. Because Xbox.
So, well, I mean, it even started before then. Like I saw people like with the revisionist history of nobody enjoyed Fallout 4, and let me tell you something: the game that sold 18 million copies, yeah, nobody enjoyed Fallout 4. My ass. I know. Or of like, oh, you know, Xbox players didn't appreciate these games. They only sold like they did because of PlayStation. Like, yeah. Let me go pull those numbers on Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout 3 while we're at it. Like, it's this whole thing. Like, it's this narrative in the industry, and I wouldn't even say it's exclusive to Bethesda, but like, it happens when you release a bad game, you are never allowed to come back from that as a studio,
right?
Everybody is like, I knew it all along. CD Projekt Red has been fighting that with Cyberpunk, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we forget that they made literally, like, probably one of the 15 greatest games ever made with The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, oh, they're a shitty studio that can't get it together. You know, Cyberpunk sucks. Like, no, Cyberpunk's a result of project mismanagement and shareholders.
Yeah. Also, I mean, look at No Man's Sky, too, right? I mean, that's like the ultimate example at this point.
I mean, yeah, No Man's Sky, Sea of Thieves was able to come back, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's like, but there are people on all sides of this fucking console war who don't want to give credit to the opposition because they think it like delegitimizes their piece of plastic.
Right.
It's like, no, that's not true. Like, innovation doesn't succeed without competition.
Right. Here's the thing. Here's the example, Josh, for me at least. Like, I think I made it quite clear that I don't really care about The Last of Us. I didn't really like it when I played it, to be honest, but I can still recognize that it's like, you know, the quality of the game is there, right? I just, you know,
I mean, I've had the same thing with Horizon.
Yeah. See, and Horizon's like my favorite PlayStation franchise. So,
I mean, like you look at it and like we talk about how like so many of these games like become like testing grounds for new concepts and new ideas. Like new IP can be a ground for that. You probably don't get Spider-Man as polished as it was in 2018 without Sunset Overdrive happening first. Mm-hmm. Without the traversal from that game basically being a testing ground. And like, if that game doesn't flop, or Microsoft says, hey, we're going to fund a sequel, you might not get Spider-Man when you get it. Like, it's, you know, this revolving door of like dominoes falling, like constant what ifs in this industry. You know, that Insomniac was a company that was like trying to strike out and work with other shareholders, not just Sony at that point. And it's just this whole hubbubaloo. Like, now if Starfield comes out and gets all these amazing reviews, it's going to be one of two narratives. Microsoft paid for them, or, you know, well, it's good in spite of Microsoft. And that's not how this works.
Right.
Like, that's not a thing. Like, they've owned Bethesda for 2.5 years now. They have had more than enough time to have significant input on the direction of this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even in today's day and age, like, I think it was Jason Schreier who said, like this time last year or earlier this year, said that if you were to pitch a brand new AAA game right now, you would have to develop it to be cross-gen with the next generation, like at minimum, and if not just outright develop for the next set of consoles. And so if you take that, and like we've heard so many other AAA game developers and writers and directors and stuff say that 5 years is about standard for a AAA game now. Mm-hmm. You just can't do it in a 3-year cycle anymore. That would basically mean that Microsoft's been around for like half the development cycle, which it really does feel like they were around for a good chunk of the development of this game from what we know about it and about Creation Engine 2 and the COVID delays and just all that hubbubaloo. It's like, no, they've had a pretty significant input on this, guys. Like, at some point, you're going to have to give some credibility.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, you know, it's people, man. I don't know, man. The internet just gets worse and worse every every second. I mean, I've like totally turned myself off from social media except for like, I mean, work related stuff.
I'm getting to that point. It's just a constant source of narcissism and negativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially
God forbid you enjoy anything. It doesn't matter what you enjoy. God forbid you enjoy.
Oh, I know. Jeez. Oh man, Josh, you know what I enjoy though?
The games you've been playing lately.
The games I've been playing lately. Wow, look at that transition.
What have you been playing, Corey? Hit me.
So I don't remember if I talked about this on the last episode or not, but I finished Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, I think we talked about it briefly on the last one. Yeah.
I'm about halfway through Plague Tale Innocence.
Okay.
That game's I'm enjoying the story. I think, I mean, even though it's the story is very dark, right?
It's very good. It's a game that I can only play in small chunks.
Yeah, I've been playing a chapter a night.
Yeah, that's probably about what I was doing when I played through.
Yeah, and so I'll play like, what does a chapter take? Like 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, something like that, depending on like how good you are at sneaking,
Yeah.
which I'm not.
Yeah. But I've really been enjoying it. Even though stories or the backdrop is like super dark and like scary and all this stuff. I really like the I really like the relationship between Amicia and Hugo. Like, I think that story of caring for your sibling is really like touching in a way.
Yeah, Plague Tale kind of came out of nowhere a couple years ago. So for those that don't know, it's from Asobo, who makes Flight Simulator.
Right.
And before that had made just like a bunch of tie-in games. They'd never really done an original IP.
Mm-hmm.
And this game comes out of nowhere. Requiem comes out last year and is a Game of the Year contender.
Yeah.
As well as a Day One Game Pass game.
Yeah.
I believe they have a third one in the works now, too.
Yeah, they have a third one. Also, they're working on the Flight Simulator 2024.
Yeah.
Now, not to get off on too much of a tangent, but I wonder if Microsoft is eyeing them to purchase them at some point.
I mean, you would have to think that they're on the short list. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I believe the short list that they did a couple years ago that we talked about in our first episode, they were on like that list of like 15 companies they had narrowed down.
Yeah.
I do believe they've had an outside investor since then, but not like a majority investor or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that Microsoft, once all this Activision nonsense is resolved either way, will probably make a move to bring some of their creative partners, such as them and Certain Affinity, in-house.
Mm-hmm. And which Certain Affinity is making first-person shooter, man. See that?
They are making a first-person shooter. I do wonder if this is what the Monster Hunter game they were working on evolved into, or if this is something else entirely.
Or if it's a Monster Hunter with guns.
I'd be okay with any of those options. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they have two studios. They have the one in Austin and they have one in Toronto. And I believe the one in Austin is the one that's the OG studio. Mm-hmm. That's the one that does a lot of the support work for Halo. And they've said they have two major projects on. They have this original IP, and then they have the work they're doing on Halo.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that like Certain Affinity has something like almost 100 devs working on Halo Infinite right now.
Yeah, which makes sense. So, which might be why Halo Infinite's multiplayer is like really, really turning around, right? I mean, like the gunplay has always been good, but like,
yeah,
I've actually been playing some of Halo Infinite. Actually,
I have as well. I played a pretty decent amount over the last couple weeks. They had a limited event that I was really into.
Yeah, it's man, Halo Infinite still feels really good to play, man. I mean.
Yeah, it always felt good. It was just like it was a lack of maps and playlists at launch, and we got the playlists pretty quickly. It was still weird that we had to wait a season for things like King of the Hill. Mm-hmm. But now, most classic modes are in there. SWAT's a dedicated mode, which SWAT in Infinite feels so good. Mm-hmm. And the maps are finally coming on a consistent basis. And a good chunk of that's because of Forge. Mm-hmm. I know they've taken some Forge maps. They've done some recreations of Halo 3 and Halo Reach maps, which is really cool. The pit is in there in New Incarnation. The game just feels really pretty good overall, like pretty balanced. I'm really into it. I'm excited to watch some HCS this coming weekend. Mm-hmm. The last major before World Championships. It's being held in Fort Worth, actually. So excited to watch that. If it wasn't Starfield and Crota's End weekend, I would probably buy a day pass and go.
Yeah.
Just they have had cosmically bad timing. They've had 3 events in Dallas Fort Worth this year, and all 3 of them I've been super busy during. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah,
excited to see what else comes of Infinite. I hope we get a tease of Halo 5, or not Halo 5, of the 5th season of Infinite, either during this or during World Champs.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, but I had to put Halo down because obviously Season of the Witch for Destiny has come out, and I'm really enjoying it. It's story's crazy.
They gave me the deck of many things.
I know
I'm happy.
Josh is happy because they put cards in it. But if you want to hear our impressions, you guys listen to Tower Casuals, our kind of main show on this channel. So, Josh, you playing anything?
I mean, of course, I'm been getting back into Destiny. The raid race is coming up in a couple of days, so I'm excited to jump in and do Crota's End. We just had the reveal of the final shape. Again, as Corey said, you can come listen to all our impressions on Tower Casuals. I've also been engaging with the new Fortnite season. I'm playing a lot of like service games because everything launched a new season at the same time.
Who decided that?
Man, it's a heist based season 2, which is like right up my alley. It's just, unfortunately, it's a really bad time for, like, if anything is going to suffer, it's going to be Fortnite. Because I've also got Sea of Stars and Starfield this week. Yeah. So, in fact, as soon as we get done here, I will be playing some Sea of Stars because it is unlocked and ready to go.
Nice. You know what other service game has a big update next week, Josh?
Fallout 76.
No. Well, maybe. I don't know.
It actually got one on the same day as Destiny and Fortnite did.
Yeah. Disney Dreamlight Valley, Josh.
Oh my God. God.
It's the Beauty and the Beast update, which has been teased since the very beginning.
I may check it out at some point. I think right now, though, I really want to, and I know I'm going to go down a slippery slope if I do this. Age of Empires 4 got stealth dropped on the consoles last week.
I know. I thought about downloading it, but I'm like, no, I'll lose 10 hours of sleep. I can't.
Yeah. So not only that, Quake 2 also dropped because of QuakeCon, and I haven't had a chance to check out Quake 2 yet.
Yeah.
And I really want to play Quake 2. So that one is thankfully like a much shorter and smaller game. But I might be able to justify playing like in between bouts of exploring in Starfield. Mm-hmm. But man, just what a crazy time for Xbox Game Pass, Corey.
It's a good time to be a gamer, but not a good time to be an adult with responsibilities. Am I right?
That's true. That's very true.
Anything else, Josh, before we get into these?
No, I'm not playing a whole lot right now. I've been kind of like trying to save my gaming energy up for
Starfield
for this weekend. We have Starfield and a raid dropping on the same day.
Yeah. Well, look, Josh, you can always just put your Series S next to your Series X, and like when people are dying in Destiny, you can go over to Starfield and I don't know.
Thinking about it. I can play Starfield on my phone.
Oh, that's right. Forgot about that. Man, I don't know if we want to touch on this now, but that Sony or that PlayStation Portal device for $200. Oh,
yeah. I just I look at this and I go, "Who is this for?"
I know.
Like in theory, I think it's a good idea, but not having any sort of like local media storage or local play is immediately damning.
Yeah.
You can't stream, I believe, I don't know. The details were kind of murky when I was reading them, but there's no built-in Bluetooth.
Right.
You can't use existing peripherals.
Yeah.
I was just like, seriously, who, it costs $200 and has around the same charge as a DualShock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or DualSense, excuse me. That none of that was like a ringing endorsement for me. No. Now, if I was I will say this, if I was primarily a PlayStation gamer, we only had one console, we didn't have the money to shore out for a second one, I might be interested in this.
Yeah, but you have to stream it from your PlayStation, though.
I know, and that's the other, that's the core thing. And I saw people being like, well, what if somebody wants to watch TV? Yeah, you're probably streaming it. You're probably streaming it from the PlayStation at that point.
This is a real Wii U situation, man.
Oh my God, yeah, I saw that comparison a lot. And I guess my thing was just what is this device doing that you can't do with a backbone and a cell phone?
Yeah.
Genuinely, what is this doing for another $100 that you can't do with that?
It's got another 1.5 inch screen size, Josh.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the screen size looks perfectly fine. It's just, I keep struggling to understand who this $200 device is for. I also think at $200, you might as well have just made a new Vita.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I
would rather pay $100 more for a new Vita than this.
Yeah. Yeah. If you would have charged $300 and made a new handheld that maybe has a baseline of I don't know, somewhere between PS3 and PS4 power, right? That maybe you can play some PS4 games, or you know, I just don't understand this thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you had tapped into like dedicated like cloud services, then maybe. But I mean, also it's important to remember that like PlayStation is just in the beta testing phase of their cloud services. Remote play they've had nailed for years. You know, going all the way back to the Vita.
Yeah,
remote play's been nailed, but they've just never moved beyond. Even though they've had Gaikai for like 10 years in house now. It just kind of blows my mind that like, oh, we just sped straight past that. But I like that you brought this up because it's kind of a good segue into our first story, which deals with cloud rights.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't heard, the acquisition deal of Activision Blizzard is waiting on the CMA to make a decision. Now I know they can close over the CMA, but they're trying to be respectful.
Horrible call.
Yeah.
Horrible call.
Yeah. I know they're trying to be respectful of the process, but Microsoft has sold off the cloud rights to Activision Blizzard games to Ubisoft to appease the CMA. How do you feel? What kind of weird multiverse is this?
So I'm going to try and explain this as coherently as I can because it did not make a lot of sense to me at first, and I had to wait for some think pieces and some clarification from Phil on this one. So I'm glad we didn't have a show the Monday right because this got dropped on a Friday.
Yeah.
And so we had all weekend to sit with this, and then we had the whole week of Gamescom to sit with this. Basically, what has happened is we knew the holdup in the UK with the CMA was on the cloud rights, and it was speculated Microsoft was probably going to sell them off to a telecom partner over there just to manage them and be the responsibility holder. I guess Microsoft has just like gone, fuck it, we don't want anybody else to be able to come and say that we didn't negotiate in good faith. We're just going to sell off the global cloud rights to Activision Blizzard games to Ubisoft to be a third-party steward. Microsoft has said in their press releases, and Phil has said like as much publicly, that Ubisoft is a longtime partner. They trust them to do the right thing. It is expected that Microsoft is going to sell them the cloud rights and have to buy their own cloud rights back from Ubisoft to put these games on Game Pass Cloud. Phil has said this will not affect the availability of games on Game Pass. Very specifically, they will still be on Game Pass. They will not be in the cloud unless Microsoft is going to they're going to have like a wink wink nudge nudge deal, right?
Yeah,
to get their own rights back. What makes this more intriguing is Ubisoft can now put this on they can put these games on any service that has Ubisoft Plus on it. Or they can sell the rights outright to another company, but they have to be tied to Ubisoft Plus, is my understanding.
So like Amazon Luna, if you pay for the premium...
Amazon Luna is about to get the most important games it's ever got.
Yeah.
Like, no shit. Like, for real.
I know.
And then I see people saying, like, well, oh my god, they can go to PlayStation Plus. Like, not exactly. That's not how this works. They only have the cloud rights, so you would be able to, theoretically, you could stream Diablo 4, but you couldn't download Diablo 4.
Yeah.
As part of PS Plus, unless Microsoft comes out and says, oh yeah, we'll strike a deal with you. Which, if I'm Microsoft, I'm raking them over the coals for that. To get some of this money back for my own fucking cloud rights.
Right.
It's a very weird situation. What's even weirder is this is a 15-year deal and not a 10-year deal. 15 years puts us in 2038, which is 2 console generations. That's the rest of this generation, and that's the entire next one. We have no idea what gaming is going to look like in 15 years. We have no idea what a lot of this is going to look like. Ubisoft is probably not going to be independent after this generation.
Yeah.
So Microsoft's kind of playing. I would suspect that there's a kill clause in there that if somebody buys Ubisoft, the rights automatically revert back to Microsoft.
Yeah.
I would suspect there is some sort of kill clause in it. I can't imagine not putting that in there. Because then that's protecting your IP. Because I saw like the funniest situation is that, Microsoft did all this to keep this stuff away from Tencent, and then Tencent buys fucking Ubisoft.
Yeah.
And that's like a nightmare scenario for Microsoft. But again, I have to stress, like, this is not as big of a deal as it was made by some people. They are basically the custodians. They are like the stepdad here. Okay. Like having to share parental rights and whatnot. I don't know. It's very weird, but Ubisoft is like that weird uncle that's coming in to like hang out with you a couple times a year. And be like, okay, well, just as long as you do it in the house, we're okay. Like, Microsoft is trying to be the cool parent here.
I know.
And I really don't think this is like ultimately going to be that big of a deal. But the think piece I read from Chris Deering over at GamesIndustry.biz basically said this Microsoft making this deal is essentially them hedging a bet that console streaming is not going to matter very much until at least the next generation.
Right.
That they have realized that, okay, dumping into xCloud this fast, this quick, while cool and it's a nice novelty to have, your ultimate, and I mean, Sarah Bond backed this up, I believe, at E3 or Summer Showcase, not E3, that cloud gaming has not had the attach rate that they thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And it's been a little disappointing for them, and they're kind of refocusing their efforts elsewhere. We do know that prevented Series X consoles from coming out because they chose to upgrade everything in the cloud first, and we can argue all day whether that's a good idea or if it was a good idea or a bad idea. It did cost them some market share. We know that much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool that they're trying to future proof, but again, I feel like they're ahead of the curve here.
Yeah.
And that it could end up biting them. But Phil has been clear from the beginning that this was a move for PC and mobile. And Chris was making the argument that in selling off the streaming rights, or the console streaming rights for these games to Ubisoft does fit with the argument of this is a move that is if they are more concerned about keeping the PC and the mobile stuff. That the console stuff really doesn't move the needle for them. They still have the rights to the games, but the console streaming rights, they're hedging their bets here that's not going to matter until at least the beginning of next generation, because infrastructure has to catch up. It has to catch up. Devices that can handle these games have to catch up.
Yeah.
And I do think we're going to get there by the end of the generation. Technology moves so quickly. Who knows where we're going to be in 2-3 years? 2 years before it came out, did we really think a Steam Deck was going to be possible?
Mm-hmm.
So, and now look at all the Steam Deck clones that have come out over the last 12 to 18 months.
Right.
And like varying levels of quality too. Like the ROG Ally is probably the only one that can like actually go head to head.
Right. I wonder if that Lenovo one might turn out okay, but
it might. And like as these devices are out there more, and people learn and fail from them, it does feel like Microsoft is hedging their bets and trying to go in on like mobile computing rather than console cloud.
Yeah.
Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that per se, but this also reads to me like maybe they're thinking that Call of Duty isn't going to be as dominant going into the next generation.
Yeah.
That maybe they plan on pulling back and not making it annualized. Because if that's an annualized franchise, I don't know why you wouldn't want the cloud rights for that to stay as close to in-house as possible. Because these aren't just UK rights, from what I understand. This is global.
Yeah.
This is a global thing. So they took an extraordinary step. I really think they probably could have gotten through this just by making a deal in the UK, but Ubisoft wouldn't have made that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Just give us the UK rights, maybe the EU rights. Like, no, then it becomes too convoluted worldwide, I think.
Yeah.
Here, like, there's nothing left even on appeal for the FTC is appealing. There's nothing left on appeal for them now because, Microsoft rectified what you claimed was one of your problems.
Right.
So, like, ultimately, I've seen some pushback on this. This does ultimately provide more options to consumers with varying levels of quality, of course. Yeah. I think the biggest winner here has to be NVIDIA GeForce.
Oh, yeah.
Has to 100%. They already had the deal with Game Pass.
Right.
And now they're going to have a deal. They have Ubisoft Plus on it as well. I think now they're going to have the deal of, Activision Blizzard games can still come through. They can come through 2 different ways now.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy, man.
It's a little silly. This is all really convoluted. I really was hoping we'd be done talking about this by now, but now the new date for closing is like October 18th, I think.
I know.
And that's like, because now this has to be treated as a whole new deal because this is such a massive shift. They can't just tack this on to the original conference. I'm learning more about UK like consumer laws than I ever wanted to at this point.
Right.
And all I'm learning is everybody hates them. The government, the public, everyone hates them except for the actual people on the board of the CMA.
Right.
Everyone else hates them.
Yeah. So.
Ay.
You know what made me sad during that whole conversation, Josh?
What?
In 15 years, I'm going to be 51.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Yeah, in 15 years I'll be 45.
oh God.
So I don't know if I'm gonna care by then. My kids will care. Corey's kids will be going off to college.
Oh God, don't tell me. My daughter will be 20 in 15 years.
Let's check back with her in 5 and in 10 years to see what she thinks about the cloud situation with Ubisoft.
Man, dude, she's still trying to get me to play Disney Dreamlight Valley and let her play, but then she doesn't understand any of it. So
that's fair.
The fact that she can't just like play with Anna and Elsa and play Dollhouse with him is like not appealing to her.
Like soul crushing.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, I do you have any more thoughts on this? I mean, I feel like outside of like Ubisoft, like we're just gonna talk ourselves in circles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care either way.
Ubisoft is just the most random company, I think.
I know. I mean, I don't really care about cloud gaming, so these rights can go anywhere really. Like I use cloud gaming to test out games before I download them, right? So,
and that's what a lot of us use them for. I think I do like playing the occasional indie game in bed on my phone, but I also have a Series S in the bedroom.
Yeah.
So
yeah, yeah. Also, like, did you know every time you stream a game, it costs Microsoft money?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I learned that. I learned that today.
Jesus,
it like costs them to because it's running on their end and they're running those servers, which are Series X servers now.
Oh yeah.
So it costs.
How much money do you think they're gonna have to pay for people trying to stream Starfield?
Oh God, they're gonna.
They removed the $1 trial this week.
I know. I saw that.
And I was like, I saw people getting upset about it. Like, why are you upset about this? You've had 4 years to grab that deal.
I know.
Like, you had to know that they were going to get rid of this before Star. I'm more shocked that they didn't get rid of it before Halo Infinite.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was their first real big game, right? When that came out, and I think they wanted to try to get people in to play.
Yeah, I mean, with Halo and Forza and stuff. Yeah, it's just like now you're looking at it and you're like, okay, this is like. What was that? I think Phil himself said that he feels that Starfield is the most important game that they've had since the original Gears of War. Yeah, in terms of like a new IP, and I mean, I was like, I don't know about that, and then I was thinking back, and I was like, well, damn, we already had Forza and Fable at that point.
Yeah.
After Gears, like, what's another like major IP that we've really had from them that's gone on for multiple games?
I mean, I can't think of Crackdown. I mean, we had Crackdown by then, I guess, but.
Crackdown was going into beta. Crackdown was about to come out when Gears did.
Yeah.
Crackdown came out 3 months after Gears, I think.
Yeah, something like that. Because it had the Halo...
February, March.
Because it had the Halo beta.
Had the Halo 3 beta. That's the only reason any of us bought it.
And it turned out to actually be a pretty decent game.
It turned out to be really fun. Yeah, I mean, I struggle to think of like any new IP that's like gotten the traction of something. I guess that's how I should phrase it. It's like, not that we haven't gotten good IPs. I mean, we've gotten things like Sunset Overdrive, we've gotten Pentiment, we've gotten Killer Instinct reboot. But like when I think of actual franchises, it's like Ori, maybe. But I wouldn't put Ori on the level of Gears or Forza.
No way.
Like Starfield, on the other hand, though, like I think him and Todd nailed it in their speeches at Gamescom before opening up the Starfield theater. Where they're like, this is the first one in 25 years. Like, we're honored. This is an Xbox exclusive. Like, it's not something we take lightly. Like, this is a huge deal. Like, this is a huge undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
And, Todd's talked about in the past, like what a journey it was to even get the game made.
Right.
And that it's, and I know like part of it is company speak because they're owned by him now, but he was like, basically part of this is like, we don't think the game would have turned out the way it did without working exclusively on Xbox.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm looking up. I'm looking up the longest running franchises on Xbox. The only one that I can kind of maybe understand is State of Decay, I guess.
Yeah, State of Decay is a weird one. It's like it's somewhere in between the Oris and like Sunset Overdrives, and
definitely
like,
double.
And I don't say it to like disregard Ori. I do think both those games are amazing,
right? But they're like,
but in terms of like being like a flagship title,
yeah, they're very large, almost indie style games, right? I mean, they're not indie games.
Yeah, the first one definitely played like an indie. The second one is a full fledged game, I would argue. Yeah. But I think this is a pretty good transition for us to go into the massive Phil Spencer interview.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, Phil Spencer did an interview with IGN with Destin Legary, and he talked about so many things.
He did a bunch of interviews at Gamescom. This, I think both of us felt this was the most comprehensive one.
I tried to listen to it, but I mean,
I couldn't do it. I had to read a transcript. I read a transcript and I saw a few videos.
Yeah, I ended up just reading it, but
yeah, let's go through some of the highlights.
Yeah. So
we hit the first one already.
Yeah. So Josh, you wanna hit the first highlight here?
Yeah, so we already talked about it. Phil said pretty much at the top that he felt Starfield is the most important launch for Xbox since Gears of War. He kind of went into after that saying that he believes that Starfield is going to have a lifespan similar to Skyrim. So 10 years long, people are still discovering it for the first time, still creating new mods and new adventures for it.
Nintendo console two generations from now might get its anniversary edition.
I'm really hoping that this means that we have a robust DLC cycle. These are one of the only studios that I look forward to seeing what DLCs they're going to make. Ever since we got the infamous Horse Armor, but if you remember the other DLCs for Oblivion, you got the Knights of the Nine expansion, and then you got Shimmering Isles. Shimmering Isles is still one of the best DLC packs ever.
Yeah,
and that was the first one that really showed what console DLC could be to me.
Yeah,
you got that. You got some of the alternate adventures in Fallout 3, you got the pit, you got
Operation
Alaska. Yeah, Operation Anchorage, that's the word I was looking for. And then you go on the Skyrim and you got the Return to Morrowind. You got that, you got some of these other quest lines Fallout 4 gave us Far Harbor and Nuka World.
Yeah.
And automation that. In fact, I remember the controversy around that DLC. They had announced it was going to be $30 for the whole season pass, and then they upped the price. It's the only time I've ever seen a DLC retroactively get raised in price, because they were like, we have so many ideas, and here, we're going to show you just what we have. And that's when they announced Nuka World and a lot of the crafting updates and things like that. Yeah. I think most of us were okay with the price increase because we'd already bought the season pass.
Yeah, Uncharted did the same thing though with Lost Legacy, where the season pass for 4 was $24.99, and then
that's true. Yeah, and then Lost Legacy just became its own game.
It was $40. But if you bought the season pass, they honored it and gave it
it's a fucking great game.
Lost Legacy is my second favorite Uncharted. If you find two,
it's a great fucking game. I'm hoping that they kind of learned their lesson in the past, and they're not talking about DLCs before this comes out for a reason. If you buy the special edition or the special edition upgrade for Game Pass users, you do get access to the first DLC, which leads me to believe that'll probably be out around Game Awards time, maybe around Christmas. I can't imagine they don't want to make a push towards Christmas sales by saying, hey, the first Starfield episode is out now.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. You think it'll be that soon, though?
I think it'll be that soon. That would be in line with past Bethesda games. The first DLC that drops is normally a smaller one, and it's usually about 3 months after launch.
Yeah, that's true.
The first Fallout 4 DLC, I believe, came out in February, and it launched in November. So that would be about right on course. That would lead me to think that next year's probably filled with a big season pass.
Yeah.
The periodic drops, but that on top of. You take that comment on top of things that Pete Hines and Todd Howard have said this week at Gamescom, that mod support is coming, and that you're going to be able to create not only your own planets, but your own quest lines, your own stories. This game's going to have an insane life thanks to the modding community. That's a huge reason why Skyrim has continued to endure too.
Yeah.
Skyrim and Fallout have continued to endure because of that. And I mean, for a lot of us, it was oh, haha, I'm getting 60 frames Fallout. That's what I really wanted. But it really did change the feel of those games. Sometimes not in the greatest way either. But even getting texture packs and whatnot, unofficial Skyrim texture pack, for example, is the most downloaded mod ever, I think, especially for console, and just makes it look absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah.
And not a game that came out in 2012.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how long of a lifespan this game is going to ultimately have. I do think it being a permanent Game Pass edition, it's gonna hurt its sales in the short run.
Yeah,
and in the long run, this game is not going to sell as well as past games. I would expect performance for sales to be more in line with Oblivion or Fallout 3.
Yeah, well, you think about it this way though, right? It's on a console with not as big of an install base. They took a console away. It's on Game Pass, right? That's all factoring into a lot of this stuff. So you got to take it within the context, I think.
Yeah, and it's still number 1 on Steam.
Yeah,
so
which is hilarious.
Take that for what you will.
But I mean, I'm sure
Also,
Microsoft's not sad. They're like, we'll take that $70 if that's what you were willing to pay for it when you could,
right. Well, there's another little nugget that came out of some of the Todd Howard interviews. He talked about Indiana Jones very briefly.
I know.
They are over halfway done.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
That it's probably going to be a 2025 game at this point. I know we've been holding out hope that it would be a 23 or 24 release. 25 feels probably about right.
I bet it's a spring game, like one of them, like Q1 games, because like here's the thing. As much as I love Indiana Jones personally, I don't know if it holds. I don't know if that franchise is very popular, right? I mean, I feel like the popularity of Indiana Jones is gone, right? I mean, that's in terms of like the movies and stuff. Like the last movie was actually really, really good, but like I don't know if that could hold like an October or November slot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't think that it would. I think that what you're probably going to be looking at more is, because we've seen it with licensed games before. As long as the game is good, it'll move copies.
Yeah.
And again, like we have to take everything into context of this is a Game Pass launch as well, and things like that. And I think like that's what people are thinking also when they go to the movie theater is like, well, this movie's going to be on streaming in like 2 months.
Right.
Oh wait, like Indiana Jones, do I have to rush out to go see that? It's going to be on there in 60 days.
Yeah. Oh man, that means it's close on Disney Plus. Yeah.
It's very close. It went up for digital today.
Yeah. Oh, it did? Ooh. That means it's really close.
It's up for digital purchase. Moving on. Phil also acknowledged that the Xbox team should have been more involved with Arcane Austin and afforded them the same support that they gave Bethesda Game Studios. This was Destin following up on the Kinda Funny interview from the week of Redfall's launch, where Phil was very candid about a lot of the things. And Phil says, we knew early on we needed to send as many resources as we possibly could at Bethesda to get Starfield out the door.
Right.
And that they should have done that with Arcane, regardless if Arcane asked for it or not. He didn't say if they didn't. And he basically said, we've had a close relationship with Bethesda, the studio, for years and years and years. Like going all the way back to Morrowind. He was like, this is a partnership that spans over 20 years. He says, we don't have that same relationship with Arcane. And so like, it was easier for us to go to Todd and be like, hey, anything you want is yours. Any resource you need. It kind of made it seem like Bethesda has like a team of their own, similar to the Sony team we always talk about for like support.
Yeah.
And that's what they got instead of giving those resources to Arcane for Redfall. And I really hate to say it, I don't think any amount of resources would have saved Redfall at this point.
Yeah.
It just seems like it was doomed from the old regime, but did not lay the blame at the head of Arcane or anything like that. He's just like, our communication has to be better. We have to be better stewards of that studio. And it does make me wonder if they're going to bring in somebody else to oversee the Blizzard properties, not Blizzard, Bethesda properties.
Yeah.
Too many B's. If they're going to bring in someone else to like oversee ZeniMax in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
He confirmed that Forza Motorsport is going to shift towards more of a live platform rather than numbered installments going forward to help alleviate confusion, and so that people know that like they get one Forza and they can just build on it for the generation.
Yeah, which I think is smart, right? I mean, that game.
We all felt that this was coming after the initial reveal, though. Like, but granted, that was 3 years ago, but we all felt that was the shift that was being made back in even 2020.
Right, especially because they took the number away, and like, in this day of live service, like, of course, a racing game like that should be live. So you add tracks, you add cars over time, add soundtracks, I guess, and stuff like that, right? I mean, that
Horizon is your one that you can keep doing installments on, I think, for like new locations and things like that. Motorsport's a little bit different, because it's not like open world.
Right. And you can sell like season passes with new tournaments and cups and
tournaments, car passes, like things like that. And I think that we're also reaching a point where there's like a finite amount of things you can do with a racing sim.
Right.
Or with an actual like racer.
Yeah.
As opposed to an arcade racer.
Right.
We kind of saw this with Gran Turismo last year. I'm not gonna say Gran Turismo 7 like hit the wall or anything, but it wasn't as good as past installments.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that we're kind of hitting that point. Forza's been away for long enough that I think people are going to get really excited for this. and want to play it. And like, I know, ooh, live service, like it's like the boogeyman in the industry. Like, live service does not mean bad. Live service done poorly is bad, but live service when done correctly. And I think if there's any studio that's going to nail it, it's going to be Microsoft. We've seen they're also a studio. They're a publisher that allows you to correct your mistakes. Look at Master Chief Collection. Look at Halo Infinite. Even you see Sea of Thieves. Like, if those were under somebody else, they probably don't get afforded that same courtesy. Like, Ubisoft shuts those down.
I mean, look at the Division.
EA shuts those down. Sony shuts them down. Activision bars those franchises from ever being mentioned again.
Right.
Like, but Microsoft, for better or worse, or, because they don't have any other options, are like, no, we're going to make these work.
Yeah.
The only one I've seen them outright give up on was Bleeding Edge, and that's because Bleeding Edge sucked dick.
Yeah, but that was also like a previous project, and I'm sure Project Mara and Hellblade are more important projects to them than a project that was.
Well, and that's Phil said that in a past interview. He was basically like, it kind of came down to, well, what do you guys really want to be working on? Like, we understand this was a passion project, that's why I didn't shut it down when we came in, but this is taking resources that you could be using elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like Grounded, which came out and was a hit. If Grounded wasn't a hit, they would have 100% folded them back in. But Grounded ended up being a hit, and so Obsidian kind of had to start allocating resources towards that rather than just, this is 10 people playing around. It's not like Pentiment where, we can roll those guys back into like, Outer Worlds 2 and, or Grounded or Avowed, whatever they want to work on, or, if Josh Sawyer comes up with another kooky little game he wants to make, then we can put them on that. He anticipates showing more games more frequently due to the strength of the portfolio. In regards to this, he was talking about like, we're at a point where we can't wait for Summer Showcase all the time anymore. We have to show things at like at Developer Directs. He said Developer Direct several times, so that makes me hopeful we're getting another one later.
Well,
this year.
Didn't he say that they were going to happen more frequently too?
He did, but I've heard the promises in the past from the Xbox team on things like that, so I'm not holding my breath. I do think they're genuinely waiting for the Activision Blizzard deal to go through before they decide anything for this fall. And like, if that goes through, hey, cool, we can tie that in with this and just do like an hour-long stream. Like, have part of it be our plan for Activision Blizzard, have the rest of it be like updates on Avowed, Flight Sim 2024, Towerborn, and Hellblade. There we go. And give release dates for stuff too. Give like, we're planning this for like a Q2 launch, or, here's the exact date for Towerborn since that was playable this week.
Everybody seemed to love Towerborn, by the way.
The best thing I heard about it, the thing that made me the most excited, was multiple people were comparing it to being the next evolution of the Castle Crashers formula. And I love Castle Crashers. That was one of the all-time great 360 arcade games. So that made me really, really excited to hear that's a thing that's happening, that there's, good storytelling. I am a little apprehensive when they say that the game is going to have seasons. Not every game needs to be like that. It's okay to have a finite ending. But the animation looks gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Some of the gameplay, off-screen gameplay that we were seeing, it looks awesome. But if you're going to do that, we've said that once you bring an Activision Blizzard, you have to do, like, you can do a summer showcase, you can do fall showcase. Phil was saying, we show things, and this is in line with the Matt Booty interview that Rebecca Valentine did over the summer. Right, where Phil called Summer Game Fest that summer game thingy, which made me laugh really hard. But I mean, they historically show stuff off at the Game Awards. Last year was an anomaly, but I mean, they revealed a console there. Hellblade 2 was announced there. We got the gameplay for Hellblade there. We've gotten Forza announcements there. Perfect Dark, like, they've done stuff for years at Game Awards. Matt Booty said, we have a great relationship there at Jeff Keighley events. They use the Gamescom to shadow drop things or to announce like smaller things that are going to be coming down the pipeline. And they keep saying they have 2024 games. Like, Phil reiterated it. Like, we have things for 24 and 25. We have not shown you yet. When are you going to show us? You're running out of time in 23 to show us. And I'm not saying like, we have to know the entire year's lineup. We know that we always go into Summer Showcase and something gets announced that comes out of nowhere. And Phil used Hi-Fi Rush as an example. Like, we dropped that out of nowhere. Nobody knew that was even coming. It got dropped. It's, one of the better reviewed games this year. It's got like an 88 on Metacritic, I think. So, on the relationship with Square Enix, he basically just says, These were his exact words. You'll hear more from them. I'm not going to push them. They're going to have to find their own rhythm, but having them make a commitment to Xbox on stage was really important to me, and I've heard it from the community to the community as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a big. This is a big one.
And the Final Fantasy 14 coming was like that was the perfect opening salvo.
Yeah, and I think that's a good start, right? I think there needs to be something like as much as like people are excited for Final Fantasy 14, including me. I want to try it out, and I'm waiting for the Xbox version to do that.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, I don't know if these are coming or not. This is just something that's important. But like a Final Fantasy 7 remake or Final Fantasy 16 are games that I don't know what the exclusivity window looks like. I know the Final Fantasy 7 one is supposedly up and just not coming right now. But like, if you get one of those games, then that relationship starts to like really start unfolding. And then you get the pixel remasters, and then you get maybe 16 later down the road, right? Or something, right? I think that's when you are really going to start seeing the fruits of this labor, right? But Final Fantasy 14 is a start.
Yeah, you get something like Octopath Traveler 2, for example, or like Triangle Strategy. Yeah. I would agree, and that's like Destin was kind of trying to get the answer out of him because he was specifically using Final Fantasy 7 Remake and 16 as examples. Yeah. Of games like we could be getting these soon, and Phil gave the most diplomatic answer he could. I would say one place I would be watching in regards to this is Tokyo Game Show. Yeah. I don't know if TGS is going to have any sort of announcement, but I don't think that if something like Final Fantasy 7 Remake comes to Xbox, it's not just going to be a random like Tuesday morning announcement.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like
there's going to be some fanfare around it when it happens.
Yeah, and Xbox has already said they're going to have a pretty big presence at Tokyo Game Show too.
Yeah, Xbox has one. I mean, as we're doing, Square's going to be there. Of course, Sega's going to be there. And with Microsoft having a presence there, that could be anything from, we're showing off Liza P again, and like the Persona games that we have the marketing for, to, hey, we've got some small announcements for you. Some localization updates and things like that. And that could very well turn into, hey, look, Yoshi P is here. Yeah. To make an announcement. The marketing team's been over there meeting with Kojima lately. I don't think we're going to hear anything on that front for another year or two, probably. Yeah. But it's important enough that they're showing pictures. They're all posting pictures of it. So who knows?
I mean, did you see the picture he posted of Keanu Reeves and
Norman Reedus? Yeah. That was wild. It's just like, who is this guy not working with? Just everyone wants to work with Kojima. He's just the coolest guy.
Yeah. For me at Tokyo Game Show, I think the announcements that would be the most realistic would be the Pixel remasters or Octopath 2 or Triangle Strategy, maybe.
Yeah, I think that I think getting something like Octopath 1 was on there already. Yeah. Which that was the funny one. It came to Xbox before it came to PlayStation.
It's still not on PlayStation.
That's hilarious because they got Octopath 2 right at launch. I think getting something like that announced, or even Remake getting announced there, would be a significant stepping stone. I don't think getting just announcing that, old games are going to come to Game Pass, oh boy, we've already had these on here before. No, we need to see stuff from the last 3 years coming over.
Yeah.
The last 3 or 4 years. There was that story about Forspoken has a 2-year exclusivity window. Otherwise, I'd be that'd probably be perfect for them to try and recoup a few dollars.
Yeah, that's coming at some point, right? I would assume
it'll come at some point, but does anyone really care?
Somebody might. I don't know.
Somebody might.
There's that group of 10 people who are waiting for it.
That group of 10 people. We already talked about cloud divestment. There will be work to get Activision Blizzard games on Game Pass. It's not going to be an overnight thing. Phil talked a little bit about that. Basically, he sounded like he was a little bit annoyed that people are expecting those games to show up the second the deal is done. He's like, that's not going to be a thing. I've seen a lot of people point to, well, Bethesda games were on there right away. That's because so many of those had already been on the service in the past.
Yeah. Plus, they weren't on there right away. They dropped them all at once. They didn't come right away. They dropped them at QuakeCon that year.
They did a couple different drops. There were some that were available right away. Those were your Dishonored, your Wolfensteins, things that had been on Game Pass in the past were already there. The rest of them came at E3. They did a massive drop at E3 that year, and then they did the last couple of games at QuakeCon. That was mainly PC stuff. But I think people are expecting like, oh, all the call. He specifically used Call of Duty as an example, like, oh, Call of Duty's going to be there right away. No, it's not. Like, guys, there is work that has to be done to make these things happen. They have to surely shift through like some of the rights. They have to understand like who has agreements on what for subscription services. Like Black Ops Cold War was just given away on PS Plus. Can we, are you even able to put that on your service at that point, or do you have to stop at Modern Warfare 2019?
Right.
There are a bunch of questions there. My favorite quote from the entire interview, it was towards the end. In regards to the Activision Blizzard hesitation to putting Call of Duty on a subscription service day one, he says he understands it, but there's a different person making the decisions now.
Yeah,
that was just fucking savage. Mm. Well, I think it's referring to, because it was specifically Bobby Kotick has been the one who doesn't want it. And, now it's, no, like, look at me, I am the captain now. Right. It's Phil just smiling over there.
He can't Bobby, be staying the CEO of...
Bobby's not staying. But I think that's why Phil was like, no, like, I'm in charge now, essentially. And he paused before he gave that answer, too, like, to try and say it as diplomatically as possible. Yeah. Even though this was not diplomatic at all. It was just, that's the reality of it. Like, he knows, like, I'm in charge. Bobby has nothing to say anymore. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
And then the last piece of little juicy news that we got out of this, it doesn't have its own story. No mid-gen update is planned for the series consoles. He says that he feels we're at the beginning of we're at the end of the beginning right now in terms of the generation. He's not planning a mid-gen refresh. He wants to see what the developers can really do with this power now, like without being held down by like Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah.
Which, good luck with that. There's been some Series S controversy this week. I don't think it's nearly as overblown as it has been. This isn't part of the Phil Spencer interview, but in regards to like the Series S power, that has suddenly become a hot button topic because of the Baldur's Gate deal.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I don't know, man. The Series S is like it's weird, man. I don't know.
Like I see the arguments. Oh, right? Yeah. I really enjoy the Series S for what it is. If it's not your primary platform, I totally understand like why, it's a great second option. And really until now, we haven't seen any significant issues with it. Baldur's Gate 3 split screen is the one issue here. It's not that the game can't run on it. It's the split screen. Yeah. It's the rendering. Larian gave a really detailed answer before they announced the dropping of the parity clause. They gave a really detailed answer on it.
Yeah, it's on their blog, right? Like,
yeah, so it was like their CEO or something was giving the answer, and like their head of tech, and they're like, we're still working with Xbox. It's that everything has to be generated on twice as much when we do it in split screen, and they're like, and it can't handle it, and that's okay. I think bending the parity clause here or waiving it for like the best reviewed game of the year. You like Phil said it in this interview with Destin. We cannot afford to not have this game on our console.
Right. The thing too is like, if that's the only feature you're dropping, like, honestly, like, who cares? Who in 2023 is playing split screen co-op of this?
I actually know two people personally.
Well, Josh, you just ruined it.
Who have Series S's, but both these people also have PS5s, so I don't really understand what the struggle is there.
I just mean like split screen is not. I don't know. I don't feel like that's like a feed. I don't know, man. I know they want parity between the consoles, and I don't really know how to word it, but I just feel like split screen is not that important anymore.
So splits. I'll try and explain. I'll try and phrase what you're.
The only thing before you say that, the only thing I can think of is like, this is D&D, right? And people like to play in the same room, play D&D in the same room. And if you can do that on a console, maybe that'd be more fun. But
I personally was looking forward to be able to do split screen with my girlfriend, but I have a Series X, so I can easily play that on our big screen. I guess when I look at this sort of confirmed my suspicions about why same screen co-op had to be axed from Halo Infinite after it was previously promised.
It's not launching with Forza
because that's Forza, Phil essentially said like we had to look at how many people are gonna even use that feature. And I think that like I feel bad because like that is, I think, compromising Larian's artistic vision in a way to not be able to have the split screen at launch because they want it there. But it's also worth realizing that like if it's going to be a game that's that technically intensive on the back end, you just may not be able to do split screen. And I hope that this is a one-off thing. Like everybody is spinning this into the end of the world. Alex Donaldson, who writes for I want to say WG 247 and has written for he writes for RPG Site, said that he was at Gamescom and like just all he was hearing was like negativity surrounding the Series S. And I talked to a few people this week. I don't know how accurate that is. Not that I'm like trying to say that there isn't concern from some developers. We have heard it in the past. We've also heard a lot of developers praise it though.
Yeah.
Like it's not, the Series X isn't that significantly more powerful than the S. And I've seen a lot of people like, and myself included, you know, being like, well, they probably should have just gone for a disk driveless X. And I do agree with that. Yeah. This did allow a cheap entry point to this generation, though, for a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to get one. The Series S makes up a not insignificant amount of the Series console sold. It's like
it's more than half, I think.
Yeah, it's wild. So, but I've seen several S owners be like, you know, hey, this is kind of the compromise I expected to have to make at some point. I didn't think it was going to be this soon, but you know, if that means I can still play the game, though, great. Okay, I can't play split screen. Oh, well, there is a limit to what my $250 console can do.
Right. And I wonder how many people, like, I feel like most of the hardcore Xbox players probably have an X, right? And I mean, in my theory is that they were selling this for people who want to play Fortnite or maybe Halo or some Game Pass games, right? I still don't know if anybody is playing hardcore on this box.
I know one person who does. And it's because, you know, she basically she uses a Game Pass box, but it was an affordable way to play Xbox games and not have to buy.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like it's
like another Series X.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. It's a Madden box. It's a Fortnite box. It's a Game Pass box. I mean I play Destiny on it sometimes, but I mean I have a Series X also. So I mean you and I are in the same boat there. So
yeah, I mean like I'm probably gonna play a not insignificant amount of Starfield on my Series S. And it's like, okay, well, hey, as long as I'm having fun and as long as the game is running well, that's what matters to me.
I mean, Todd Howard said he's plays most of his on Series S.
I love his reasoning for that, and it's because his kids are hogging the X. But I guess if we're going to get into it, I guess Baldur's Gate 3 is the next thing we need to talk about here.
Let's do it.
So it's finally coming to the X and S because Phil waived the parity clause. We didn't bring it up in the Phil Spencer interview. He did talk about Larian in there, but he was like, yeah, I'm meeting with them here. And literally the next day is when the announcement came out.
It's coming later, though, right? The split screen, they kind of said they're going to try to bring it later.
So the Xbox Socials account said that they're still going to be working with Larian to try and bring co-op to the Series S in the future, in a future update. To me, that says, because the original estimation was, even if they could get it implemented, it probably wouldn't be ready until like Q1 2024. And as Phil said, it's like completely unacceptable for them not to have it on now. It won't be there the same day as PS5 from what we've gathered, but it will not be that far behind. I would expect like maybe beginning of October.
Yeah, I think they want Starfield to shine first of all, I think.
I think that's part of it, but also I think that, you know, they understand like, well, the priorities went into making sure the PS5 version was ready to ship. They have to make sure now that like the build they have on PS5 can now run on, I mean, it'll run on X, but we got to make sure it runs on S now. And they've still got Xbox engineers embedded at Larian. And that's the thing. Like, I don't think Microsoft wants to have to do this for every single release. This is a very special circumstance because Larian had to come out and basically say, hey, we can't get it to work on the Series S. The X has no problem. The S is running it fine, just not in co-op.
Right.
So
that has to be frustrating for those engineers though, right? To try to like make it work and it's just not working.
There's so much procedurally generated shit. It's like when people are like, "Oh, I just want a multiplayer Skyrim." Do you understand what goes into a game like that tracks everything?
Right.
It's tracking everything on the back end, like, and especially in a game with infinite possibilities.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you guys understand what goes into this. Like, I don't even want to begin to understand what goes into this. But the official statement said, super happy to confirm that after meeting with Phil Spencer yesterday, we found a solution that allows us to bring Baldur's Gate 3 to Xbox players this year still, something we've been working towards for quite some time. All improvements will be there with split-screen co-op on Series X. Series S will not feature split-screen co-op, but will also include cross-save progression between Steam and Xbox. And it is important to note, it's not in this press release, but there is cross-save between PlayStation and Steam as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do PlayStation to Xbox or not, but it's basically everything's linked to your Larian account. So, but that's awesome. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see this. I kind of hope they put up the collector's edition because I'd buy it in a heartbeat. It's sold out for the other two platforms immediately.
You would think they would, though, right? I mean,
you would think they would. It is important to note, even on PlayStation, this is a digital-only release. There are no physical copies of Baldur's Gate 5 or Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation 5. Baldur's Gate 3 on the PlayStation 5.
See you when I'm 51. Just like the clown.
Dude, see you when I'm like in the old folks' home at the rate these games come out. I'm really excited this is coming, though. Again, not just one of the best reviewed games of the year, one of the best reviewed RPGs ever made. And it's the game that's kind of launched CRPGs back into the public eye. These are games that, like, I mean, Divinity Original Sin 2 is a magnificent RPG, but it's not a game that, like, people are running around saying, like, not that it didn't sell well, it sold very well. Just like on consoles, it was kind of like, okay, like, and it was good, but it developed its reputation over time, I feel. CRPGs have historically been mostly console or mostly PC games. I found it very funny that it was going to be ready on Mac before Xbox.
Yeah, I can play it there.
Hey man, I was fully prepared to have to play it on my Mac. I was fully prepared to play through Baldur's Gate 3 on my MacBook if I had to.
Oh, man.
That's how much I don't want to use the DualSense
I know.
For a 100-hour game.
Dude, that controller hurts my hands, man.
It doesn't hurt my hands. It's just I don't like the haptics or anything, and most games don't give me the option to turn it off.
Yeah.
And I'm just not a fan.
Well, I'm glad they've kind of found a solution, right? I mean, I wonder how many more studios are going to come out and try to do this. But obviously Baldur's Gate is a once in a generation game at this point, right? Even
I don't think too many other studios are going to try to come out and do it. I mean, it's usually just lower resolution and lower frame rate, which, I mean, that's nothing different than last generation. With the pro consoles and the base consoles, like that, this is nothing different. And like you said, how many games are really going to run it? This is 2 games in 3 years that have run into this issue, one of which was a first-party title. And it just seems to give us a promise. And that feels like it was more maybe a restriction of the Xbox One. Like the dictation that Halo had to run on Xbox, on the base Xbox One.
I know, gosh, that's so gross.
It's the same issue we talked about with that. Like, okay, you had Xbox One, you had the One X. Like, are you going to cut the One out at some point? You can't.
Yeah.
Just like PS4 Pro can't cut out the base PS4. You're running into the same thing again now. And you're going to run into it if Sony comes out and does a mid-gen refresh with the PS5. A more powerful PS5, like it's been rumored for another like year or 2 away.
Yeah. Do you think Xbox will respond to that if they do? I mean, I'm sure there's one in R&D just in case, right? I mean,
I would assume there's one in R&D just in case. But I think that the real strategy would probably be to just ditch the S at that point. Because it's really baffling to me that they doubled down on the S at the summer showcase. That like their reveal wasn't a Starfield console. It wasn't a 2 terabyte unit or a diskless X. It was a 1 terabyte Series S. And I think all of us were going, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was a... I mean, we both said when we covered the showcase, right, that like that was like a downer. That was like a real downer to end on.
Oh, that was just a wild thing to end on. I mean, that felt like the Microsoft of like 2015. Yeah. That felt like when they ended on the One X and it didn't come out for like a year and a half.
I would have rather them announce another Kinect than that, I think.
Oh, I won't go that far, but no, it was rough. I still think it's rough, and I mean, I say this as someone who really likes the S, and I think gives the S like a lot of leeway.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe they actually came out, and I think the S was perfect for the time it came out. But that if you're running into issues like this with Baldur's Gate and Halo, and I think you're just hoping and praying that this doesn't continue.
Yeah.
Then I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you. You just got to hope that it all works out. But you're going to run into this as the generation goes on. They are going to run into this with just normal games, unfortunately.
Yeah. And you can't start next gen early, because then you'll run into a Dreamcast situation, maybe, right?
Then you run into a Dreamcast situation. I mean, at best, it turns out like the 360 PS3. At worst, it ends up like Dreamcast PS2. Yeah. And I really do think that would be the one. It would end up like Dreamcast PS2.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Microsoft has said in court filings they expect the next generation to start in 2028. That's 5 years away. That's a long time not to support the Series S. At some point, I do think they'll drop the parity clause, but it won't be until like 2025.
I mean, the only way I could see them dropping the parity clause like right soon is if they don't want to do a mid-gen refresh and Sony comes out with their pro version or whatever.
So, yeah, from what I understand, how the X is structured is Microsoft can release firmware updates to like unlock a little bit more power inside of it. I don't know how accurate that is or not. That's just something I saw floating around when the console was coming out. It may just be fanboy bullshit. Yeah. The only way I see them saying, hey, we have to ditch the parity requirement is if, say, Elder Scrolls 6 is struggling to run on the Series S. Then they're going to say, fuck it, we're getting rid of it.
Yeah.
We're dropping the parity requirement. If you can make it work, you make it work. We're going to issue a mandate that first-party studios have to still get their shit working. But we're not going to freak out too much if there's third-party games. And I would still expect most third-party games to be able to run on it, because the way I see it is, you're kind of aiming for like those lower specs, right? It's like a minimum requirement you have to hit. And I think that I don't think that's holding back innovation or anything. It's like developing for like a step down on video cards. I don't know. I'm backseat developing at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we're clearly not developers, but
no,
it seems to make sense to us. Well, I mean, I'm glad we're getting it. I think it's going to be big on Xbox regardless, right? So
for sure.
All right, Josh, let's hit up this DLC real quick.
Let's go to the DLC.
Xbox announced Series X console wraps that are $44.99 US dollars, and the Starfield Special Edition is $49.99 US dollars. How do you feel about these wraps?
This Starfield one looks pretty clean.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of these, and then I saw how thin they are and how like the texture that's on the back, and I actually really like it.
Yeah, and they seem really easy to like, no pun intended, wrap around the console and then take off at if you get a new one that you think is cool, like you can just wrap it around. And I think this is a good idea to try to compete with the side plates of the PlayStation, right?
Yeah, they've said that this is kind of their response to, like, I think it was Phil directly who said like he doesn't like the idea of you having to buy a special console. Like I love my Halo console. I'll never wrap it because I think that it looks so good. But this is kind of like the design lab, right? Where like, maybe we don't make a giant print of custom controllers for every game, but like, we'll have like 4 limited time designs for like Redfall or something like that. Like Starfield, it makes sense. We gave you a special headset for the first time. We gave you a special controller, which we've only released a special controller for like Forza this generation. Even Halo didn't get a special controller. They got a special Elite. I should take that back. There was a special Elite controller for Halo Infinite, but it's like, I feel like that and like a wrap are like the things they will do for like, if you're doing like an accessories push, that's like the new limited edition console push. So, and I really enjoy my headset, and I liked my headset. I like the design of the controller. These wraps look pretty good, but it's going to be $5 more for the Starfield one as opposed to the camouflage ones look like ass. These things look terrible.
I want some clean ones. Like I would like a clean navy blue one, or like a
I feel like they're going to do a pure white one.
Yeah, I bet they do a white one. I wonder if they do colors to match the controllers eventually, because they've released a ton of controllers. Like at least at least
Yeah,
like the base ones, like the blue and the red, and
yeah, I could see them doing like having a blue, red, and white ones. Having those three, having like an Xbox green, maybe
that Velocity green
like
controller.
a green and black
Yeah.
one to represent the original console. You could do some throwback
Oh, that'd be
ones.
awesome.
There's some fun ones you could do here, but I think this actually looks really good. I was pretty impressed with how thin it was, and like it looks like it's rubber on the back almost.
And it looks like they
It
stick
looks like it
together with
grips on there.
like magnets when they wrap all the way around.
Yeah, and it looks pretty good. You know, we were seeing the console in person, so I'm a fan. This is cool. I personally won't be buying one, but and this feels like I saw some people being like, "Oh, I'd really like to see these for the Series S." Like, no, it makes sense that they're on the X. The X is the premium product. Yeah. Like, you want to customize, go to the X. So,
speaking of throwbacks, Josh, the Xbox 360 store is shutting down in July of 2024. But the games that are backwards compatible will remain on sale on Xbox One and Xbox Series.
Yeah, I have kind of weird feelings about this. On one hand, we knew this was coming eventually. Yeah. We saw Sony tried to do this a couple years ago with the PS3 stuff and the Vita, and got absolutely met with a revolt. Mm-hmm. There definitely wasn't one here. There were some fans who were upset, and like Phil has publicly addressed, he knows there's about 200 games that will be lost to time and space forever that have never received physical releases, and that they're working on a solution to, you know, make sure those games are still playable after this happens. Them keeping the backwards compatibility games available to be purchased and downloaded is a good move, because I feel like that's most of what people are playing.
I mean, if you're still playing on Xbox 360, like, I mean, I don't know who is, like, I don't know.
I mean, for me, it's more of a preservation thing. And I do know that when these storefronts close, that makes, especially for a console like something like PS3, I would say it's almost more detrimental, because like there's no way to play something like Metal Gear Solid 4 outside of that console. It makes the physical copies become much more valuable. And for a console that's backwards compatible like Xbox, it's not like, oh, PS3, you have to own a PS3 to play it. No, you can buy the 360 game and still play it on your Series X. That's a pretty significant thing. Like, the fact you're still going to have those digital purchases, though, is pretty important as well, I think. I mean, we've already seen the result of it, for instance, with Red Dead Redemption. You know, the re-release came out for PS4 and Switch, and it's $50. I can regularly pick this thing up for $15 with Undead Nightmare attached at Best Buy.
I mean, I bought it digitally for $10 when it was on sale.
Yeah, you get the auto HDR and everything. Like, I kind of wonder if this is going to galvanize them into doing one final round of backwards compatible. I know they've sworn that they can't do it anymore. I wonder if this is going to galvanize them into doing it.
That, and like
maybe like a call to arms.
I mean, also the Activision Blizzard deal might have
with the will Microsoft be willing to pay the rights for some of the old stuff like Marvel Ultimate Alliance or like the Tony Hawks or something?
I mean, which, you know, that we talked about that on the last episode, where like the Transformers game, like Hasbro wants the Transformers game, so that also sparked a lot of conversation too. But all right, Josh, Stalker 2's Game Pass release date moves to early 2024. I
heard great things about this at a Gamescom.
Yeah, I heard a lot of good things too, but I think with a lot of games that are coming out and stuff, this was a good move.
This was a good move. This is the words I heard used to describe this were brutal. Like, it is brutally hard. It's like FromSoft as an FPS. Which, if you've never played the original Stalker games, they were very, very difficult as well. This is the game that a lot of people who play this, probably like 90-95% of people who play this on Xbox, are going to play it through Game Pass. Which is not a problem. This game is going to do its numbers on PC. It's very much a PC game. From what we've heard, this is only a 3-month exclusive, but Microsoft has basically been marketing this like it's a first-party game.
Well, I think when it was originally
Hey,
supposed to come out, they knew they didn't have really a lot of games that would be ready, and so that's what I mean.
I mean, they didn't, but I mean, I'm talking even like continuing past that. I mean, it had a starring slot at E3 2021, which is when they were starting their big first party push
Yeah,
too. We had Psychonauts and Flight Sim and Age of Empires and Forza and Halo all come out that year. Stalker was slated for the next
yeah,
spring. So like last year, theoretically, before delays and wars, should have been Stalker 2, Pentiment, Grounded, Redfall, Starfield, and As Dusk
yeah,
Falls. That's a pretty sweet lineup for a
yeah.
year. And now this is coming out early 2024. It is going to be a great start to the year. They were a huge part of the booth at Gamescom. They've been mentioned at most digital events Microsoft has done, especially since the beginning of the war. They're like, we don't really have a build to show you, but we've got dev diaries from them. There were some great interviews that were done with them. The Xbox channel did some great talks with the team over on their stream. Just what even Phil, when they opened up the booth at the Starfield Theater, he specifically was calling out GSC and talking about how honored he was that Stalker was a part of their booth. It's clear this is a pretty important game for them. I wonder if they renegotiated the terms at any point and said, "Hey, not 3 months, but we'll pay you for we'll pay you above market value to have this game exclusively on our platform for a while."
Yeah.
And on Game Pass and stuff. Like, we want to make sure that you guys not only have enough money to like cover the cost of the game, but like that you have like money to live on. Given that they had to relocate to Prague, and we're seeing the same thing with another Game Pass game, Replaced, has also been pushed into 2024. Another one from 2021 that I was like, oh my god, this is one of my highlights of the show, and has been continually promised at 2 years now in a row at Summer Game Fest and at Xbox shows. Like, it's been promised to show up, and it just can't be there. That's what happens. Like, we've never really seen studios get displaced because of war before, to my knowledge. So this is a truly unique situation, and both of these are games that already had deals in place before this happened. So now it's kind of wondering, okay, like, so what's the good that this community can do? What's the good that these companies can do? This is $1 trillion company. Surely you can do a little bit of humanitarian work.
Right.
So I'm still really excited. It looks great. I saw the video of Phil and Todd playing it at the booth. But they're really pushing this, like, in a way that it's funny. I feel like Microsoft's pushing of this has almost been like on the level of a first party game. And like, it almost feels similar to how Sony pushed the timed exclusivity for Deathloop and for Final Fantasy 16 in a lot of ways. I wouldn't be shocked to see some sort of promo come out when this releases next year to be like, oh, hey, we've got some limited time Stalker merch, or we've got a special edition controller or something like that. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see anything like that. Like, oh, we've got dynamic themes for it on our console. Like, I feel like there's going to be a big push around this. And part of it's because it's such a good story to rally around too with this studio. Not good. Good is the wrong word. It's an inspiring story to rally around. And I mean, like, these devs they've been through a lot. Like, I said it when this happened a couple years ago, when the invasion of Russia, or when Russia invaded Ukraine about 18 months ago. I said that I would be buying a copy of this no matter what. That even though I'm going to play it on Game Pass, and I know that my gaming tastes have radically changed in the last 15 years. And I probably won't enjoy how brutally hard this is anymore. I'm still going to buy it because I want to support the studio.
Yeah, I think that's their story, man. It's rough.
Do you not along the lines of Stalker 2, but anything else from the Gamescom booths that grabbed your attention that you saw?
I mean, nothing that we haven't already talked about, to be honest. I mean, I was more listening to like interviews and stuff like that. I mean, the Jeff Keighley's security thing is kind of messed up.
Oh my god! I didn't even watch, because opening night happened right after the Destiny 2 showcase. So I was recording our reactions with Nerd and Johnny, and then getting that edited and posted while this was all going on. And our friend Ray was telling me what was going on. He's like, you haven't missed much. I will say, the Starfield live action trailer did hit me in my feels. That was really, really well done.
I forgot to. I do the Black Myth Wukong game.
Well, oh god, Black Myth Wukong looks
Dude,
awesome.
it looks like it looks like a PlayStation 7 game. The game looks amazing.
Our friend Ray has been excited for this for a very long time. He is on the edge of his seat. He couldn't believe how good it looked. For me, I think coming out of it, I was shocked at how good Persona 3 Reload.
Yeah, it looks really good.
That game looks awesome. The intercuts look awesome. I expected it just to be like Persona 3 with a Persona 5 skin, but it really looks, and from what I heard from people who played it, feels like its own game. Like it almost feels like an evolution of the Persona 5 Royale formula, which is really exciting to hear. We saw some of the updated animations, and the soundtrack is going to have 60 new music tracks in it. Like just some of the wild stuff we were seeing. That's coming out February 2nd, 2024. So my February is already bookended by two massive games. Persona 5 Tactics looks awesome. Really excited to finally get to see that in action. I was like, okay, all right, I'm in. I was already going to play this on Game Pass. Now I'm super in. That and Mario Rampage or Mario RPG.
Rampage.
Mario Rampage. That's what kids used to call it when I was a kid. They didn't understand RPG was a role.
Oh, really?
Game. They call it they used to call it Super Mario Rampage, and I was like, Super Mario Rampage isn't a game. They're like, yeah, it is. It's like, no, when you go and look it up, it gives you a game on E-Bomb's World where Mario has a shotgun.
Jeez.
Yeah.
E-Bomb's World.
I'm very, very excited. Those two games are going to take up my December. At this point, it just I know we're about to shift into the coming to Game Pass section, and like this week has Sea of Stars and Starfield, but the next 60 days, even if you want to stretch it out to like 75 to include Persona 5 Tactics, are legitimately might be the best run we've ever gotten for Game Pass.
Yeah, there's a lot, man. There's a ton.
There's Sea of Stars, there's Starfield, there's Lies of P, Payday 3, Lamplighters League, Forza, City Skylines 2, Persona 5 Tactica, Cocoon.
Dude, Cocoon looks amazing too.
That's eight games right there, just off the top of my head that are coming. That is
it's a good stretch.
That's wild. And you just got Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Age of Empires 4, and Humankind dropped on there. I'm sure there's some other indies that I'm forgetting about. Jassant got announced for the end of October.
That game looks cool too.
Coming from Don't Nod, that game looks awesome. Heard great things from people who played it at Gamescom. Man, what a good not just like that's a phenomenal Game Pass stretch. That's arguably the best we've ever gotten ever. In terms of value, in terms of AAA games, that is 100% the best we've ever gotten.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But you look at the wider industry beyond that. You've got Spider-Man 2, you've got Alan Wake 2, you've got Assassin's Creed Mirage. The Hellboy game is coming out, one of Lance Reddick's final roles. You've got Super Mario RPG, you've got not Rampage RPG. You got Sonic Superstars. You've got New Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Where is the console version of Baldur's Gate 3? Like, where is the time to enjoy all of these?
You can't. You got to pick and choose, man.
You got to pick and choose. Like, I see everybody going, oh my God, my backlog. And I'm just like, I am looking at this going, there are so many games. And thankfully, like, I'm not interested in some of these. But, like, I will never play, like, half of these games. I have to prioritize now and then hope that I can get the rest knocked out in December and October before next year just absolutely murders me.
Yeah.
Like Q1 alone has Stalker 2, Tekken 8, The Final Shape, Persona 3 Reload, and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth planned. What, like, Corey, what the fuck?
Man. I don't know, man.
I got so used to like the staggered releases of the last 3 years.
Yeah, well then you think like
now everything is just hitting critical mass.
Now, I mean, when you think about the end of 2023 and then you hit Q1 of 2024 or like the first half and you think about what's coming, right? Like,
well, that's what I was just saying. Like, it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get a chance to breathe for like 6 weeks, and then it starts all over again.
Yeah, man, it's
It's wild. It's absolutely wild.
All right, let's talk about what's coming to Game Pass over the next couple weeks before we record again. The Sea of Stars is coming on 8/29, so by the time you hear this, it'll be out. It might already be out. If
it is already out. Yeah.
For me, it still says coming soon, but 9/1 early access for Starfield. I think it's 9/6 for you normies out there. And then 9.5, we're getting Gree, which is really great. If you're really into indies, it's a really great game. I played it on Switch a couple years ago, but it's
I think I know where the majority of us are spending our time.
It's
gonna be Starfield and Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars, just man,
that game looks really good.
One of the indies I'm most excited for. Oh, another game to add to the list of November Game Pass, or now through November Game Pass games. Thirsty Suitors.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm so excited for that game. Anything that Annapurna puts out, I'm gonna play. God, just I'm ready for Sea of Stars. I read some of the reviews today, and I mean, the lowest I think I saw was an 8 from IGN. I saw a few 10 out of 10s. I saw somebody on Twitter was saying that it's their personal game of the year so far. And all those comments made me really, really excited. And I'm like, well, we'll see what the discourse is like on Thursday morning for Starfield. 9 a.m. Pacific is when the embargo lifts on Thursday.
I'm intrigued.
Did you hear about the guy that
got arrested for steal? He stole a copy, and then he streamed it, and then he started selling copies on what? What's the
Macari? So this guy stole Tyrone. Tyrone stole a copy, and he made a video, and he addressed Todd Howard in it and said, "Yo, Todd, I don't know why you don't want to talk about this game. This game is bitchin', but I don't understand how to play it." And then he streamed it directly from his console. He streamed for an hour or two. So people are getting leaks galore out of this, right? Then he uploads no less than 2-3 dozen copies for hundreds of dollars a piece of this game to his Macari account, which were being bought, by the way, as well as collector's editions. Police show up at his house. He gets arrested for that, possession of controlled substances, and theft. And it wasn't just Starfield. He had shit from from the warehouse he worked at, I guess, that he'd just been boosting for forever. His whole Macari store was stolen shit. So his store is down. His console and IP are permabanned by Xbox. They have copyright claimed every video of his that is up regarding this. Yeah, I can't get over that. That our first impressions of Starfield came from Tyrone. This game is bitching, and I don't know how to play it.
Dude, every time I hear the name Tyrone, I think of Dave Chappelle.
Every time I hear it, I think of They Cloned Tyrone. Great movie, by the way, on Netflix.
Oh, man.
John Boyega, Jamie Foxx. We love them.
Well, Josh, is there anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, I imagine that next episode, I know the one topic we're going to be discussing.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty beefy Starfield episode. I'm pretty sure. So
it's going to be about the stars for sure. Starfield and Sea of Stars.
Thinking about getting the early access bundle just to play it over the weekend. But
man, it coming out on a holiday weekend in early access is kind of perfect because people they're going to be like, oh, I can wait. I can wait till next week. Then they're going to see their friends playing it and be like, fuck it, I got to buy the early access. We've seen how good early access goes for games like Forza Horizon 5. Yeah. What was it? They had 10 million players or something before the game was officially released.
Something like that.
That's crazy. Even for a $30, $40 bundle, it's
insane.
That's a good amount of money. It's estimated the game costs $200 million to make, probably. So,
well, Josh.
Well, Corey.
Until next time. It'll be Starfield time, and we're really happy that everybody listens to the show. Want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to Xbox Casuals. You can find it every other Tuesday on your podcast service of choice. Definitely took off faster than I think we both expected, so thank you, everybody. Check out our sister show, Tower Casuals, if you are really into Destiny. Josh, thank you for your time tonight, as always. Where can we find you?
For now, you can still find me on Twitter at Josh_Finn, 2 N's.
For now.
But I'm hanging out in Discord a lot these days.
You can find me at I am Corey HD on most social media networks. And, rate us, subscribe to the channel, all these things. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. Until next time, we love you. Goodbye.